the spinal or cranial nerves can be either sensory, which is called afferent, or motor, which is called efferent, or mixed. They can be mixed too. Now, the one special part of the peripheral nervous system is called autonomic nervous system. So what is autonomic nervous system? ANS, autonomic nervous system, is the efferent or motor division of peripheral nervous system, which controls visceral organs like heart, lungs. Therefore, autonomic nervous system controls only three kind of tissues or organs. They are smooth muscle, glands, and the cardiac muscle. Are you following me? So again, we have central nervous system, then we have peripheral nervous system. In the peripheral nervous system, we have sensory of peripheral nervous system, which brings the information from outside to your center. And there is efferent division of peripheral nervous system, which takes the impulse towards the body. And when it takes the impulse towards the body, it can be voluntary or involuntary. Are you following me? Voluntary, like when it comes to our muscles, skeletal muscle, I can move it. So that is voluntary. But motor neuron going to the heart, lungs, kidney, intestine wall, your glands, ovary, uterus are not our under control. And those are the visceral motor system. So the another name for visceral motor system is called autonomic nervous system. Let me write down here. Okay. So ANS, which is called autonomic nervous system, is visceral motor nerves. Okay. That means these are the group of motor neurons which controls your visceral organ. So ANS controls smooth muscle, cardiac muscle, and glands. Okay. So basically, autonomic nervous system controls only three kind of tissues. So autonomic nervous system has two parts. They are called sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system. So I'm going to get out from here. So in the brain, the first part of the peripheral nervous system are the cranial nerves. So what are the cranial nerve? This is olfactory. Here is optic. Then you have oculomotor. Then you have trochlear, trigeminal, abducens, facial, vestibulocochlear, glossopharyngeal. What is vagus? Accessory and hypoglossal. So these are the cranial nerves. Why we call them cranial? Why we call them cranial nerves?
I think because they're in the skull.
Yeah, because they exit from skull, cranium. That's why we call them cranial nerve. So let's put the labels here and go over it. Glossopharyngeal and vagus are together. So in the exam, if I put question, which of these cranial nerve exit from cerebrum? What will be the answer?
Cerebrum, not the cerebellum.
Cerebrum.
Cerebrum.
There are only two cranial nerves which exit from cerebrum. What are they? You can see it. It's
Yeah, the optic. Wait. Is it the optic nerve, cerebrum? I'm going to say the optic nerve and the oculomotor nerve.
oculomotor is from the midbrain here. You see?
Oh,
It's a
okay.
midbrain. What about this one? Olfactory.
Olfactory, yeah.
Yeah.
Olfactory.
So first two cranial nerves exit from cerebrum. Rest of all develop from brainstem part. Let's go over function. Olfactory nerve is responsible for smell. Optic nerve is responsible for vision.
Vision.
Then oculomotor nerve is responsible for movement of the eye. Trochlear is also responsible for movement of the eye. Abducens 6 is also responsible for movement of the eye. Then trigeminal, we call it trigeminal because it has three branches. One goes to mandible, another goes to, one goes to eye, second goes to mandible, and third maxilla, and third goes to mandible. That's why we call them trigeminal nerve. Okay. Trigeminal nerve function is to uh, get some sensation in the eye area and in the maxilla and mandibular area. Facial nerve, facial sensation, and some motor function in the facial. Then there is glossopharyngeal. It is also glosso means tongue and pharyngeal means pharynx. So it has the function in the sensation in the tongue and pharynx. Vagus nerve is very vague. It goes everywhere in the body. From here in brain, it passes up to your heart, lungs, kidney, ureter, like a lot of area. You can name it in the wide spread area of your body. And they all control the visceral organ, okay? Then there is vestibulocochlear nerve. Vestibulocochlear nerve is responsible for hearing and balance. Accessory nerve is responsible for shrugging of your shoulder. So when you shrug your shoulder, that is the function of accessory nerve. Hypoglossal nerve is responsible for movement of your tongue. Okay. So the main part is you need to understand if I remove this, hide the level, you need to map them all again. Okay. This is the cranial cavity superior view, and it is showing all the other structure. You don't focus much here. I don't want you to be knowing things here. Okay. This is the internal ear cavity. So vestibular nerve is going inside. Facial nerve, vestibular nerve. Don't worry about this one. Okay, so this is mid-sagittal section, and you can see the part of the brain. So you see this is olfactory bulb, like under your nose. And this olfactory bulb joins the olfactory tract. And then olfaction is the function of which part of your brain? Temporal lobe of your brain. Then you have oculomotor nerve here, optic chiasm, where optic nerve cross, pons, trigeminal nerve in different section. I will not ask you question the nerves in this section. You will have like infero-posterior view, which we did earlier, and then a spinal cord. Yeah. This is the accessory nerve has two parts. One is called cranial part, another is called spinal part. Okay. So accessory nerve you see here, it is the last nerve which is exiting from your cranium as well as spinal cord. And then you see the spinal nerves. How nice the spinal cord is here. The plexus and the spinal nerves coming. These are the branches of the dorsal rami of spinal nerves. So rami and ramus, two terminology. Let me tell you what is that. Ramus is singular and rami is plural. So what happens, like when a spinal nerve comes, what we'll see in the another slide, when a spinal nerve comes, spinal nerve divide into two. The anterior branch is called anterior ramus and posterior branch is called posterior ramus. Okay. Anterior ramus, several anterior ramus, like from several level of spinal nerves, anterior ramus join and forms the plexus. Okay, spinal plexus. I will show you that in the model when we go over the models of the autonomic nervous system. Okay. So those are the branches of dorsal rami of spinal nerves. This is all the cadaver. So you see, this is the spinal cord and then spinal nerves. And then dorsal root of a spinal cord. You know dorsal root. Dorsal root of a spinal cord contains the cell bodies of sensory neuron or motor neuron. We did this last time. They contain cell bodies of sensory neuron, somatic sensory neuron. And then you see the spinal nerves after the dorsal root ganglia, spinal nerve. These spinal nerves divide and forms the ramus. Okay. So let's see here. This is the spinal nerves, ventral rami joining and forming the cervical plexus here. And then in the arm region, you have brachial plexus. Plexus is bundle of spinal nerves. Lateral cord of spinal plexus, and then nerves, musculocutaneous nerve, radial nerve, ulnar nerve. These are the nerves. And here you can see the artery. Same structure in highly magnified form and clear. This is the nerves in the hand. You see the median nerve, ulnar nerve, and the radial nerve. These all are the branch of brachial plexus. In the abdominal cavity, these are the nerves, but you will not be asked these questions in the exam, okay? I will go over the model mostly. These are the sciatic nerve in your thigh, you see. When you remove the muscles from the buttock, you're gonna see the largest nerve in your leg, that is called sciatic nerve. And these nerve then divide, becomes common fibular nerve, tibial nerve. See? So let's go and see the home and nervous system, the anatomical models. So it will be easy. Peripheral nervous system. So the levels. So we did in the real cadaver, nowadays, same structure in the brain model. Do you have any problem identifying any structure here? Brain, inferolateral view, cranial nerves. So you have to remember the Roman number of this nerve. So if I say, write the name of 12th cranial nerve in the exam, then you have to say hypoglossal nerve. Okay. Earlier I was talking about ramus and rami. So this is a spinal cord. These are the outside are the white matter and the gray matter. So posterior horn contains the cell bodies of sensory neuron. So dendrites from our body, we have dendrites in our body, and there dendrites comes here and join the dorsal root ganglia, which contains cell bodies. So dendrites are here in the cell bodies. These cell bodies then gives sensory fibers. And this sensory fiber then joins neurons, which are sensory. Similarly, motor, anterior are motor, anterior and lateral. And when they mix, they become a spinal nerve. Now these spinal nerve divide posterior and anterior. Anterior fibers, like this is, let's see in the cervical region, there is 7 spinal nerve. So the anterior branch of spinal nerves, which is called anterior ramus, let's see 7 of them, they all fuse together and then makes the bundle, and that is called plexus. Okay. So ramus are anterior branching of the spinal nerve or posterior branching of the spinal nerve. And when anterior branching forms the bundle, we call them plexus. And we have several plexus: cervical plexus, brachial plexus, lumbar plexus, and sacral plexus in different region of the spinal cord. Okay. I'm going to ask you guys again. How many we are here? 6. The region posterior horn is sensory or motor?
Sensory.
The ventral root is sensory or motor?
Motor.
The dorsal root is sensory or motor?
Sensory.
Dorsal root is sensory or motor?
That is sensory.
Good. Dorsal root ganglia, sensory or motor? Dorsal root ganglia, sensory or motor?
Sensory.
Sensory. Good. Spinal nerve, sensory or motor? Or both?
Both.
Both. They are mixed. Okay. And this ventral gray matter, this area is motor. So you have ventral, this area is somatic motor, and this lateral gray matter is autonomic motor. Okay. As I told you earlier, the spinal cord ventral rami fuse and forms the plexus. You see, this is one plexus. This is called brachial plexus. You see here, brachial plexus has several cord. You see, medial cord, posterior cord, lateral cord, and this plexus then get into your arm and divide into several nerve, like axillary nerve, radial nerve, ulnar nerve, musculocutaneous nerve. Those are the branch of those nerves. Okay. You see ventral ramus of C7 forming the plexus. This plexus, just get the idea. You see, this is in the lumbar region. So this is lumbar plexus. Lumbar plexus comes down and join and forms sacral plexus coming here in the sacral region, and they go down and turn into the sciatic nerve. In the brachial plexus, as I told you earlier, they're branching. Radial nerve, musculocutaneous nerve, median nerve, and the ulnar nerve. Okay. Same nerves here in the hand. Here is the sciatic nerve coming down. So sciatic nerve is the branch of which plexus? Cervical plexus, brachial plexus, lumbar plexus, or sacral plexus?
Lumbar.
Sacral plexus. Let's see here. Go back and check it. You see, this is the lumbar plexus. Lumbar is in the abdomen region, okay? And then here is sacral plexus. This plexus comes down and that becomes sciatic nerve. You see here, sacral plexus here, sciatic nerve here. Okay, we have done this neuron model. Did we do last time at the beginning? This is a typical model of the neuron. And they are covered by Schwann cells, which forms the myelin. And then this gap junction is nodes of Ranvier, and this covering is neurium. This is Schwann cell nucleus, axon, cell body, dendrites, and this is axon terminal synaptic with neuron. So like several axon terminals are making synapse with cell bodies. This is the axon model. Okay, let's go to nervous system, autonomic, anatomical model, but autonomic nervous system. So these are all the ganglias, group of neuron cell bodies outside the spinal cord. And these ganglia, like sympathetic trunk ganglia, this is the whole forming sympathetic trunk ganglia, superior cervical ganglia, stellate ganglia, and then sympathetic trunk ganglia. These all ganglia are the cell bodies of autonomic motor neuron, okay, or autonomic neuron. They are lying on the side of your spinal cord, and they are connected with each other by nerve fibers, motor nerve fibers. This will be similar in this left side too. We have cut. And then some of the ganglia are in front of the vertebra too, which is called prevertebral ganglia. Some of the plexus of the nerves are in the organ, particularly parasympathetic. Ganglia and plexus are in the wall of the visceral organ. You see here, cardiac plexus, and then again, sympathetic trunk ganglia in the left side. Earlier we saw in the right side. Vagus nerve. This is the hypothalamus, and this is the corpora quadrigemina. Hypothalamus, medulla oblongata, and hypothalamus are the major center of autonomic nervous system. They are controlled by either the cerebrum or medulla oblongata or hypothalamus, or together all of them. These are again the cranial nerves, which are the part of autonomic nervous system, because sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system are formed by these cranial nerves and the ganglia. See, earlier I said lateral horn. So dorsal horn contains sensory neuron cell bodies. Lateral horn contains autonomic motor neuron cell bodies, and ventral horn contains somatic motor neuron cell bodies. Okay. Adrenal gland here. Adrenal gland is gland above the kidney, either side. And in the center of the adrenal gland, we call it adrenal medulla. And adrenal medulla is the part of sympathetic nervous system, which is one of the branches of autonomic nervous system. In the model now, you can see properly. You see? This is the sympathetic trunk and ganglia. So these bumps are the ganglia, and whatever is connecting them, that is the chain. Okay. This is dorsal root ganglia. Dorsal root ganglia are sensory ganglia, and sympathetic trunk ganglia are somatic motor, autonomic ganglia. Yes, somebody was asking question.
Yeah, I just I was hoping I'm wondering if you can just talk a little bit more about the sympathetic and parasympathetic. I know they are both part of the autonomous nervous system, and one, kind of mobilizes body system, the sympathetic, and the one conserves energy. But I don't quite understand why, sympathetic, parasympathetic, and how.
Yeah, so that is like a big description of sympathetic and parasympathetic.
Okay.
If you go over the lecture, I have explained them all, but here autonomic nervous system is the visceral motor system that controls your internal organs. It has two divisions, sympathetic and parasympathetic. Sympathetic exit from the spinal cord, from the thoracolumbar region. Some autonomic sympathetic arise from thoracic region, and some arise from lumbar region. Whereas parasympathetic motor neurons arise from cranium and sacral region. And they have just opposite effect of each other, because these neurons at the end in the organ release different neurotransmitter. And I have explained is the way in detail in the lecture. If you go over lecture, they are explained, because you have not
Yes.
gone over. That's why it seems hard for you guys.
Yeah, thank you. I haven't had a chance to go through, but I will go through it. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So sympathetic nervous system is always active during emergency or excitement. And parasympathetic is pretty much all the time when you're relaxed. And parasympathetic conserve energy, sympathetic use energy. Okay. So this is the autonomic motor neuron structures. Okay. So guys, practice these models as I went over. And I will suggest before you practice these things, go over the lecture slide, PowerPoint, and then come here. Okay.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you.
Any question? If not, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.